the end of this year. They will sign him.
Yeah.
I'm very confident they will sign him. And I was very confident before yesterday they will sign him.
The interesting thing that you said also about team Red Bull as a whole, and it would be the same with, even like it would be the same with Roush if 4 of 5 were running great and 1 was terrible, or Hendrick with 3 of 4 or whatever. At some point you gotta wonder how it's not like the 82 is buried in mediocrity. They're not even and as far as I'm concerned, he's not even mediocre at times. Mm-hmm. And how can you have one team that's 12 points out of the chase and winning races now, top 5, top 10 winning races, and the other team buried for the most part in the 30s. It's just very interesting to me because, like you said, with the 24 and the 48 and the 25 and the 5, the 82 and the 83 do work together. So it's just, I'm kind of like, I think it weighs Team Red Bull down a tiny bit, though Vickers' team is solid.
Well, and here's what I'll say about this. Vickers is a good driver with a good crew, and they have good equipment. They might have good equipment on the 82. I'm not sold on the driver. I'm not sold on the crew. And that's the thing. That's why the team concept, the idea that you have to judge them all the exact same way is really not true, because like in Hendrick, they don't have 4 Jimmy Johnsons, and they don't have 4 Chad Canasses on the pit box, and they don't have 4 Lowe's team members pitting the cars. They have a different set of guys and a different set. Well, not really the cars so much, because they all build those the same place, but different drivers and different crew members on every team. And so it probably won't work entirely across the board that same way. And it won't ever. You'll never see a team with 4 teams that run exactly the same way. You want them all to be relatively good, though, of course. Obviously Earnhardt Jr. is the low spot on the team right now at Hendrick. But, and then you look at him. He's changed crews in the middle of the season. He's had all these other issues. He's had some bad luck, too, And you have to say, too, is that besides, I thought yesterday he was really driving his guts, his heart. He was just driving as hard as he possibly could at the end of that race, and he got a third-place finish out of it, which was big for him. So, I would argue that's not the driver, but you could argue that it is the driver. And so, and that's the big difference. Scott Speed, I think, has talent, but he is not ready to drive in stock cars yet. He's not seasoned enough yet. At best. At worst, he can't cut it at this level.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. And I think, for the most part, I'm going to agree with you. However, the only thing I'll say is, what little progress he might be making that we can't see. Mm-hmm. I just hope that they don't axe him before. They're not going to axe him before the end of the year, but I just hope, because it's just kind of like, well, then it's just a step backward. It's just kind of like Allmendinger took a while, and then maybe it's just gelling with the team and everything. But Allmendinger also had more.
Well, they had similar experience when they got into the Cup, actually.
So do you? With Red Bull, with Team Red Bull, with the 83 doing what they're doing, and then the 82, would you? I think we talked about this when we were back at Joliet in July. You said that you don't, in your opinion, you don't think they should axe them after this year, correct? You think they should try and give them another year?
A guy like Scott Speed, I would give 3 full years in Cup, and
because of the lack of experience.
Yeah, really, he needs a long time, and if you have the time and the money, give it to him. Red Bull. What Red Bull has going for them as an operation is that they are all, and it's all on themselves. Because Red Bull owns the team, they're also the sponsor. There's no pressure from the sponsor, unless the only pressure is coming from the ownership, which is also your sponsor, which is kind of it's like double the pressure in one spot while taking it away from another spot.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of a unique situation because it's not the same for many teams. I think. Really, that I can think of, the only previous example was kind of like Valvoline, but that wasn't even full ownership.
Yeah, and even then, Valvoline had a huge say in, basically Valvoline, by being an owner of that team, had double the say in what their team was. Yeah. Either you have this driver or anything like that, or this staying crew, because not only they're the sponsor, they're also a partial owner.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, am I right? Is Red Bull the only example of that? That, like, the owner is the sponsor?
That's the only thing I can think of. And Red Bull's done that in a lot of other sports, too.
Well, because I remember when they came in, that was kind of not a big deal, but it was different for NASCAR.
Odd, but they had been doing that in Formula One for a few years. They own a soccer team in Major League Soccer. I think it's the New York Red Bulls or something like that. They actually own the team, so it's kind of like a sponsor ownership sort of thing.
And that company has a lot of money.
That company does have a lot of money, but that's kind of the point. If I have that kind of money, and I have that, I give him all the time in the world because this is my guy, and he is their guy. He was their guy in Formula One. So, like we were saying, I would not touch him. I would not touch him for 3 years.
Yeah. Now then, I mean, even a year from now, so still in the middle of the second season, still running low 30s. Then
he should be seeing improvement. But here's the thing: is that at this time next year, okay, right now he's 35th in points. This time next year he should be like, if he's above 30 in the top 30, that's improvement. He's got only one top 10 this year.
Talladega.
Yeah, one top 5 and one top 10. I don't care about the top 5 as much as top 10. He's got to have a couple more of those. But I'm sure if he's in 25th in points, he will have a couple more of those, Yeah. I mean, there needs to be some steady improvement. I mean, if he's still doing this bad, I mean, and he is doing bad right now.
It's pretty bad.
He's going out there, and he's not fast, and he's getting into wrecks. He has been doing that the entire season.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, clearly, since we're talking about Red Bull, the 83 is there. I think that they're a chase contender. They won a race. They've been very mostly consistent. They've had a few bad races, which is what's mired him back there. But I think the 83 is there. Now they just got to, you're right. I agree with you. Develop him. He had very little. I mean, Scott Speed himself in interviews has said what little stock car experience he had. It was basically not even. It was trucks and.
He had a year of ARCA and trucks pretty much.
And that was about it.
Yeah, which is actually more than Allmendinger had. Allmendinger had a handful of had like 3 truck races and a few like 3 ARCA races before he came into Cup.
And he was starting to get solid. So
and he accelerated really fast. One could argue that he's showing more promise now than Speed was, or Speed
at this point in the 82.
One could argue that. It's hard to really say. I remember him being terrible his first year too. So
So I mean, I just hope that.
Though I'll also argue in Allmendinger's case, he was a startup team. Now Speed is stepping into an established operation that has proven on some level with Vickers at least that they can run. Back in 2007 when Allmendinger was doing terrible, he kind of was like, well, I mean, what more do you want from him? He is a rookie driver and a brand new team. I mean, everything that is at the lowest possible denominator was.
Yeah.
Except he had a sponsor, I guess.
Yeah. But no, it's always, and you and I both agree with this, it's always cool to see guys that don't win hardly ever or ever at all before win.
I hope that this is the first step in an ascension for Red Bull. I really do hope the 83 and Brian Vickers becomes an elite team in the next year, because that's the next step after this. They've won a race now. Now you need to make the chase. Now you need to become a consistent threat. They can. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't, but they can, and I hope so, because I've got kind of a soft spot for the Red Bull team. I always have since I started, just because they were the flagship Toyota team before Gibbs came along and snatched that up. So it's like finally they're getting their recognition.
Yeah, they were, because.
And remember, talks about that
because you
Michigan,
can't really argue Michael Waltrip Racing.
Yeah, well, and also like Michigan has always been like considered the
Big
kind
three.
of home track for the manufacturers. So a win there is important to all the manufacturers, especially in these times. So the fact that Toyota's finally got a win there, that's a big feather in the cap for Red Bull.
Yeah. Let me ask you. He's now ascended to 13th. 12 points out.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Brian Vickers will make the chase? Because a few weeks ago I don't even think considered him at all.
No, I don't think he will.
You think he's just too inconsistent, or you think he'll just be overpowered?
Well, there's 3 races left for the chase. 2 of them are short tracks, and those are not his strong suit. Comes down to that. Boyer's got a better chance in 14th
because of the short tracks.
Because of the short tracks, and Kyle Busch.
Axel has a decent chance.
He's in the same spot he started yesterday, except he's got 2 guys between him now. Personally, I've got money on Kyle Busch making the chase, so he needs to make the chase. Well, sort of. I got that pool. He's in my pool. Yeah. I need him to make it. But actually, I need Biffle to fall out in 10th, which probably won't happen. Well, no. Basically, anybody from about 7th on back. Oh, on the bright spot yesterday, we were talking. I don't know if we talked about this. Kurt Busch had a big issue yesterday. He fell to 6th in points. And Edwards jumped up to 4th. So much for that big 4 we've always been talking about.
Well, yeah, because I was, and I was going to bring that up, and so it's interesting that you said that. For most of the season and most of, our run on the show, it's been those 4, meaning Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart, Kurt Busch, have kind of separated themselves. However, I think he's had a couple of bad races in the last 3 or 4 races. He's bumped himself down, not just actually out of the top 4, but now not so much into the completely a lock.
Yeah.
He's gonna make it, but he's not a complete lock
He's-
anymore.
That was his first DNF of the season, though.
Oh, yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's that, I guess.